What's up, Wall fans? Welcome to yet another video feed for Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall. I know it's been a little while, and you might be able to hear part of that, but I'm going to get into the reason we had kind of an unplanned, I don't want to call it a hiatus, but it was not, we weren't supposed to be on that long of a break, and still not 100%, but we'll get into a lot of that as we get into episode 114, and I'm going to go as long as my hearing allows and my voice allows. So that being said, let's get right into it.
1, 2, 3, go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall. Go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall.
All right, Wall fans, Common Sensors podcast consumers, welcome to another very exciting edition of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. And this is episode 114, 114. All right, we're going to get into the unplanned break, but before I do that, let's get through some social plugs and whatnot that we always start things off with. That was grammatically incorrect. Got to watch my grammar. Not usually something I care about. Anyway, social plugs. You can keep up with us during episodes, after episodes, for episodes, whenever you so please, and you can do that in multiple locations. One of those would be facebook.com/go tell it to the wall. That's right, facebook.com/go tell it to the wall. That's our official Facebook page. We also have a YouTube channel. That's right, youtube.com/go tell it to the wall or at go tell it to the wall. Either of those will take you straight to our YouTube channel, and you can subscribe and check out all of our great video content that gets posted up there. And of course, my own personal Instagram account, which is at SoCalSean, SoCalSean at SoCalSean. Lot of photo content in the hopper right now that's going to be posted over the next week or so. So make sure you're following over there on the Instagram. And of course, we also have our website, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That's right, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That is your one-stop shop for everything I just mentioned, as well as exclusive content that you don't find anywhere else, as well as a link to our Patreon campaign where you can support us financially. Or if you don't want to use Patreon, you can actually hit up our merch website and pick up some Common Sense merch right there. Links directly from SeanO'RourkeLive.com. All right. I know it's been a little while. It's been like 3 weeks or something crazy. And for those of you that listened to the last couple episodes, you know I had pretty much completely lost my voice for a little while there and was kind of trying to struggle through a couple episodes. And then on top of that, I ended up getting a cold. And we're going to talk more about that during parenting because it's been going around, man. And I ended up with a pretty bad cold. My voice was not good. I had the cough going and everything else, and then kind of right as I was starting to feel better, honestly, like 2 weeks ago, I woke up with a terrible ear infection. Like, I mean, not terribly painful, but and maybe it's painful to a lot of people. I grew up getting ear infections, and it's something I still get as an adult. I don't want to say oftentimes, but once in a while when I get a bad cold, I'll end up with an ear infection. And you can probably hear it a little bit in my voice. And the problem with recording audio is it's very difficult to do if you cannot hear out of one side of your head. And in fact, when I came in and put on the headphones today, I was like, wait a minute, is something wrong? Nope. Still just can't hear completely out of my left ear. I actually had to kick up the volume on my headphones, my monitors, so to keep me kind of on track and make sure that I'm monitoring correctly. The good thing is I have a visual in front of me too, so hopefully this is not going to sound like me yelling at you because I don't have complete hearing. And like I said, I'm still not 100%, but it's like, you know what? We got to get back to the common sense, and so that's what we're doing here. It is a Monday. We are doing a special Common Sense Sunday on a Monday, and that was simply I just gave myself an extra day to kind of see if the ear infection would clear up. I got like this really strong nasal spray over the weekend, hoping it would clear it up. And it's getting better. I'm sure by next episode I will sound a little more normal, like you typically would hear me sounding. But right now you can probably hear a little bit of that nasally-ness. And it's not even because my sinuses are congested. It's just my left ear doesn't work. And it's been pretty hilarious. And I'll tell you, when we sit on the couch in my house, my wife usually sits on my left side. And she just gave up on trying to talk to me for a good week and a half there because we'd be watching TV or something, and I wouldn't even hear that she was talking to me, despite being like literally right next to me. That's how bad my hearing was for a little while there. So on the road to recovery, but that is the main reason that we had like an unplanned break there. I couldn't hear. So I couldn't get in here and talk into a microphone because I couldn't hear what the hell I was saying. A little bit, but it was not a good situation. And like I said, fortunately, it's finally clearing up. I'm nearing 100%, and hopefully very soon I will regain complete hearing out of my left side. And I know I've mentioned it many times before, and I just mentioned I've gotten ear infections ever since I was a kid, and I also have tinnitus. So it just makes it this perfect storm of holy shit, I can't hear. There's a buzzing in my ear, and it feels like I'm ascending in an airplane just constantly. It's like my ears are clogging up, and so here we are. Anyway, getting all tangented there. Some other news, though, I want to point out at the top of the show, which actually has made things easier. As you know, if you've been a long-time listener ever since the inception of Common Sense Sundays, we moved from Thursdays to Sundays, and that was mainly to accommodate my wife's need to work from home. So she took over my studio for most of the week, and then I would clear things out, set up my gear, my whole, everything that is needed to record this. Which a lot of it, obviously this microphone. I'm not pulling down a boom stand every time, but I had to pull the computer out, the camera, move her stuff. And finally, it hit a point because not only between photography editing, the podcast, and my part-time role with a design agency, I needed a permanent office. And so I did not completely kick my wife out of the studio, but it is now set up for the two of us to be able to work side by side at times. Obviously, she's not going to sit in the studio while I'm recording, but I don't have to do a full change out of my rig here, which is nice. And you can't see it in the video for those of you watching the video feed, but there's like a brand new desk over to this side. And for those of you that remember the Centibration, there's a couch there. We took the couch out. We're getting a chair to put there, and the extra half of that couch is now taken up by my wife's own desk. So there's no more changing things in and around and out and all those kind of things, and a little more flexibility on the ability to record at any given time. We're probably still going to stick with a lot of Sundays just because I like the Common Sense Sunday concept. But we'll have a Monday here and there. We always have, the holiday episodes is rarely on a Sunday, a holiday special, and all those things will still kind of proceed as usual. But it is nice to have a reworked studio. I still technically have to share it, but all of this doesn't have to move in and out on a constant basis like it was before. So that's a good kind of positive thing. And for those of you that always watch the video, actually, because of rearranging, I've commandeered more sticker space. So if I see at a show and you got a podcast or you got a you're a brewery, or especially if you're a band or a record label, you can see record labels, bands, breweries, all kinds of stuff on the wall behind me. Because I moved those skateboards, now we have more room because it was getting full. It's like I'm running out of space. In fact, if you look at the framing on the video feed, and maybe I'll shift that a little. We'll see. There's stickers that don't even show up on the video. So all that housekeeping's done. That's what happens when we don't record for like 3 weeks. There's just too much stuff, and we haven't even gotten into our first segment of episode 114. So bear with me. I'm going to go as long as my voice permits. It's probably going to run a little long unless I completely lose it here or completely lose hearing like I did about 2 weeks ago. All right, so digital trends. Forgive me if you've heard of a couple of these, because a couple of these have been kind of in the hopper for 2 weeks here. Hashtag lumpy pillows. If you haven't seen this one, I highly recommend checking it out, because seeing that gas bag of a human being, if you could even call him a human being, Mike Lindell, there was a clip that surfaced recently of him getting ridiculously visibly upset about the quality of his pillows because somebody had questioned and said they were lumpy pillows. So, Twitter is still good for some things, and this would be one of them. So, of course, everyone took to Twitter, or whatever the hell they call it these days. I'm still not calling it that new thing, and got hashtag lumpy pillow to trend. But you got to see the clip, because Like, if you thought that guy looks fired up in clips where he's talking about the Orange Menace and stuff, holy shit, he got fired up about his pillows. All right, hashtag writing on the walls. This was so funny. I saw this popping up as trending over the past couple days, and immediately to me, as I'm clicking it on, and I'm going, well, the writing on the walls around my neighborhood is quite a bit of graffiti or stickers on the walls, go telling it to a wall. But then, of course, the first thing I click on, I swear, was my neighborhood. And it was a lot of graffiti posts, of course. And this one, and it very well could have been a similar looking neighborhood, but I swear I've seen this one around my neighborhood. It's a stencil that says, stop making stupid people famous. So check out that hashtag. You're going to see some funny things. It did definitely diverge into graffiti posts. Some funny, and I live in Los Angeles, so it's a very common thing here. In fact, I've worked in marketing for so long, and a lot of Los Angeles brands just pretty much embrace the graffiti look, because that's just kind of the look of one of the looks of Los Angeles. You always see palm trees and stuff, but go downtown, go to Hollywood, you're going to see a lot of graffiti and tagging. Anyway, let's move along here. Hashtag and I'm here to remind you. That's right. Hashtag and I'm here to remind you. So I, the one and only Sean O'Rourke, your favorite podcast host, are going to remind you of two tenets of the Go Tell It to the Wall podcast that have really existed since the inception of Go Tell It to the Wall. And the first one is, don't believe everything you read, especially on the internet. If it's in a published book and can cite maybe. You shouldn't take anything on Twitter as fact, especially if it's coming from a politician. And one of the other very important tenets of Go Tell It to the Wall is fact check everything. So you can reach a point where it is a believable thing that you have read on the internet, but don't believe it until you have fact checked it. Because a lot of times, and again, especially with politicians, and it's going to be so bad for the next year, really, because now we're in a presidential election cycle, and they're all going to lie their asses off. I mean, the orange one, he's built on lies. I swear, it's like Ghostbusters 2. There's a reference that only Ghostbusters fans are going to get. Not the best movie, but New York, it was all based on, there was like a river of slime. And this isn't, apologies if I'm spoiling anything. This movie's from the 80s. There was a river of slime that was increasing in size because of the nastiness and hatefulness and arguing and anger of the people of New York. And I swear that's kind of the Orange Menace, is he's powered by that shit. So be careful over the next, always be careful, but good Lord, it's going to be just a muckraking year. I can already see it coming. All right, hashtag National Cheeseburger Day. That's right, today is hashtag National Cheeseburger Day. I'm sorry for everyone else in other countries. This one is not International Cheeseburger Day, so you're probably not allowed to eat a cheeseburger today. Obviously, I'm just kidding. I think everybody should equally be able to celebrate if you like cheeseburgers. Personally, I love a good cheeseburger. This is definitely one of my favorite foods. I will not be having a cheeseburger today, but there were a lot of deals going on. Free cheeseburgers, cheap cheeseburgers. In fact, I got a McDonald's not far from my house. I walked there to pick up food, and they were doing a 50-cent double cheeseburger today. This kind of goes along with when Taco Bell does their free tacos, and it's like, is it really worth going and fighting a crowd and standing in line for like $1 taco? I'm sure a double cheeseburger at McDonald's costs more than like $1, but what are you saving? $2? Is it worth fighting through a line for a double? For some people, it is. By all means, do you. It's just not something I do. I don't get in line for like sneakers and stuff like that. I mean, now that I say that, might sit in a waiting room on my computer trying to get some show tickets. But outside of that, I try to avoid the crowds. But if you're into it, go pick up some cheeseburger deals. And also, that brings me to another thing that kind of was trending on the digital platforms. Apparently, McDonald's is looking to phase out their self-serve soda machines. And it's actually really funny because I didn't look at this in detail, and I kind of understand both sides of the coin, but I recently went to pick up some McDonald's for my kid and I, and there was a woman who had done like order at the kiosk, and then realized that the soda fountain things, like the self-serve, were not turned on. And so she just put, and you know how that is. Like, we remember as kids, depending on your age, when there wasn't always the self-serve soda thing. So you're like, give me a Coke, give me a Dr. whatever it might be. And then it hit a point where you're like, just a soda, because you're going to fill it yourself. And so she just put in like a whatever soda. And she's like, actually, one of those should be a blah, blah. I don't remember what it was. So I don't know if they're already starting to do this. Now, I have obsessive compulsive disorder. I understand part of this. I don't take the top cup. I dig a couple cups down just in case someone's touched it. So I get that. But at the same time, are we going to stop refills altogether? You're going to have like, and McDonald's is one example. I've walked in there, and instead of ordering at the counter, they will tell me to go to the kiosk. And I'm like, no, I saw that study. I know how much literal human shit is on those fucking kiosks. So you're going to take my order, you know? So they're phasing out people taking orders and stuff. You're just going to put more work on the people that are making food if they've got to refill a drink every time. So I get kind of both sides of this coin. I'm sure there's some health aspects to it, but we'll see how that goes. The other thing is, if you go to a Jack in the Box that's been recently remodeled, they have those fancy Coke machines where it's like a digital touch screen. And actually, the past few Wendy's I've been to, multiple locations over the past few months, they have those machines where you can get like every soda under the sun, and you click Coke, and they're like cherry Coke, vanilla Coke, lemon Coke, Coke, like, it's all these different things. So I'm really curious to see kind of how that trend is going to go. But please, that's the other thing too, is I guess I don't, McDonald's in particular, because I'm usually, unless I'm out and about, and then I'm taking it to go, so I'm not really sitting in a McDonald's, and I've got one right near my house, so I don't even really order soda there. I can come home and have a soda or water or, a tasty alcoholic beverage with my meal, so it'll be interesting to see. All right, Wall fans. Prepare yourselves, because I've been sitting on this. Oh, have I been sitting on this. Last episode was the beginning of Burning Man. It was like literally the day that Burning Man officially started. And unless you live under a rock, because like the New York Times was picking it up. And in fact, there was a sign from one of the camps in my village that my camp belongs to that made it into a picture. And I believe New York Times, one of the large periodicals that's still around. So you've seen the news and everything that was happening, and oh God, it's an emergency at Burning Man and all this other stuff. I'm here to tell you, it was not anywhere near as bad as the media was portraying. It was a fraction of difficulty compared to what the media was portraying. So it rained at Burning Man. This happens. It rains out there. It is the middle of the desert. For those of you not aware, it is a dry lake bed. So when it rains a lot, it turns into a lake of sorts. Now, it wasn't a very deep lake. What happens is you cannot get around because it's not safe to drive vehicles when the playa is in that condition because of the nature of it. It is alkali-rich dust, essentially. And so the media took this and ran with it. They're showing pictures of people covered in mud and rain all over the place. And in fact, it even spawned some End Burning Man Now hashtags. On top of that, and this is the one that really got me, people were comparing it to Fire Festival. And then on top of that, and I'll tell you, respect to Eve 6 and Max Collins, but he had to jump on it, of course. Here's the thing. Anybody tweeting anything or giving any information about Burning Man 2023 and how it was going out there, unless they were there, or possibly if they are a veteran burner like myself or my wife or many other people I know that weren't there this year, you can't believe a fucking word they were saying about the burn this year. And here's the thing. I had a bunch of friends out there. A bunch of friends. They fucking loved it. They had a blast. And here I am at home getting into it with Eve 6 because he said something like, oh, this is a libertarian event. What can you imagine? What did you think would happen? And it's like, yo, can't control the weather. This is nothing like Fire Festival. For those of you unaware of the history of Burning Man, it has existed since 1986. We're talking about 40 years. It has existed in the location where it currently is since 1990, 4, 2 or 4. Long time. Can't control the weather. You just can't. Completely overblown by the media. You talk to the burners who went, and here's the other thing. And actually, the media made it sound so bad, and somebody did pass away, most likely not from the rain. This happened. There's 70,000 people in the middle of the desert. People die. Natural causes. These things happen. There has been instances. I was on Playa when somebody did, in fact, die from getting run over by a mutant vehicle. That was the quietest I've ever heard Burning Man in all my years there. And, of course, we had the instance years ago where the guy ran into the fire, the man fire. I wasn't there for that, but that, those are instances of tragic death. But, if someone has a heart attack out there, there are helicopters. I personally know people that have been life flighted out of the Playa. But, of course, everyone's worried. So I got text messages like crazy, which understandable. And it's friends of mine that were like, hey, did you go to the burn? Are you at the burn? Are you okay? Are your friends okay? Got blown up because of the media. And most of them, when I said, the media's overblowing it, they were like, yeah, that makes sense. But I also pointed out to a lot of people that veteran burners love this shit. Because what happens is you have these fucking billionaires that go out there, don't understand the principles of Burning Man. They pay people to set up their camps. They drink like fruit-infused waters and stuff, and that's fine if you want to enjoy stuff, but not living the principles of Burning Man. So a lot of us like when there's that extreme weather, because what it does is it keeps the billionaires from coming back. You probably saw there was a viral video of Chris Rock, yeah, that Chris Rock, driving away from Burning Man in the back of a pickup truck. He's probably not going to go back to Burning Man. But the thing is, everyone else that knows the principles and had a blast this year will be back there again next year. So don't believe it. Rant over. I've just been... I kept seeing media stuff. Like I said, Eve 6. I'm like, yo, it's the weather. What does that have to do with any... you cannot control the weather. And everybody persevered. Everybody I talked to that was there said they had a blast. Everyone supported each other, and everyone was fine. And it did take an extra day to get the porta potties cleaned out. We call them portos. That happened years ago when I was there too. It's not supposed to be easy. That's the thing that people forget. It's not supposed to be easy. You're toiling in the desert for 10 days. All right, rant over. This one I actually loved. This was trending Saturday. There was an Iowa cheerleader, a male cheerleader. Not that it's important, but the importance of it is if you haven't seen the clip, and the cheerleaders are doing backflips in the end zone. And this male cheerleader does cartwheel backflip or something. As he's doing the last part of his flip, his pants fall down. And, of course, he finishes it, pulls his pants up, runs off the side. And it was so funny because of these very toxic, masculine, John Boy and Barstool dude or whatever are like, this is so embarrassing. And I was so pleasantly surprised because I was like, this is not embarrassing. First of all, dude's in shape. It's not like he was wearing, and if you want to wear pink underwear as a man, whatever, I wouldn't have found that embarrassing, but maybe you could say, oh, he was wearing some flowery underwear. No, it was black boxer briefs. But it made it all the more impressive because he didn't miss a beat. He pulled his pants up as he's flipping and landing these flips. And everyone in the comments is going, yo, that's even more impressive than if his pants didn't fall off. And that's why I specify male cheerleader, because female cheerleaders, and I don't know if there's options. I don't know anything about collegiate cheerleading, but they tend to have the skirts on and stuff. But the male cheerleaders, every time I see them, they've got pants, so it's hard. I don't think those skirts really fall off. They feels like they're attached. Again, not a lot of experience with cheerleading. I did see Bring It On a lot of times, but that's just because my high school was in it, literally. All right, gender reveal party. We've been hearing about these. People have caused forest fires, all kinds of damages, smoke, people losing eyes, I don't know, all this kind of stuff. We have found the ultimate, quit the fucking gender reveals. And let me caveat this with, if you want to have someone bake you a cake and it's either blue or pink inside, fine. Do that. You want to have someone put a pink or blue balloon in a box and you open the box and the balloon, fine. Knock it off with the over the top. And we have seen the ultimate now. And there's so many things wrong with this. But there was a viral clip of 2 helicopters flying by, and it said they were each towing a banner that said something about baby, baby, you know. And then as the helicopters come by, a jet, like an F-14, you know, if you've lived near military bases, one of those kind of like a military fighter jet, comes flying overhead and suddenly starts spraying out pink smoke behind it. Okay. First of all, the expense of getting this done. If you have nothing else to spend your money on, find someone to give it to, first of all. Second of all, the resources. Here in Los Angeles, I have to separate my fucking recycling. I got to put food scraps in a fucking green bin. And all of this is, you know, we have to use paper straws, reusable bags. And I'm fine with all of this, but this is all to be environmentally conscious. Yet here we have a couple, and I don't want to be that guy. Come at me. It's probably fucking Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas. We got to have a fucking fighter jet come over. Talk about the resources that goes into that. What a waste. Creating more pollution just so you can throw some fucking pink smoke in the air. Give me a break. I'm so over the gender reveals. And they need to stop now. Again, you want to have a cake? Fine. Knock it off with the smoke bombs and throwing things and all and freaking airplanes. Jeez, enough. I didn't realize we'd be so ranty today. It's probably because I can't hear out of my left ear, so I'm making up for it by being extra ranty. Speaking of being ranty, good old Elon over there at Twitter. Still calling it Twitter. I don't care what you call it, Elon. There's a story that just came out today, in fact, where he is at... I bet this isn't going to happen. He's got everyone that would already, but he's saying he's thinking about making people pay for their Twitter account on a monthly basis. And his reasoning is supposedly to get the bots out of Twitter. But really, we all know nobody's going to pay for Twitter. Actually, some people do pay for Twitter. But the people that pay for Twitter, they're already paying for it, dude. You tried charging me, I'm done. I don't need any of this. And of course, when these things happen, Threads was trending on Twitter, as was what is it, Blue Sky or whatever, these competing apps. And it's like, dude, just finish burning it to the ground and call it a day. Nobody's gonna pay. Well, I mean, nobody with common sense is gonna pay. I'm warning you, Wall fans, don't go out and pay for fucking Twitter. All right, mental health. I knew we would be content heavy today, and I've actually got a couple things I want to discuss over the next couple episodes, but I kept it light today. There's just a couple things I want to mention, and because there's so much other content, we're just one thing. As always, I am not a doctor. I speak about mental health based on my own experiences and the experiences of people I know and things I've read, but I am in no way an expert. I have just lived with it, but I am always here. You can absolutely send a message through SeanO'RourkeLive.com or through our Facebook page if you're looking for some assistance on finding resources, and I can do my best to absolutely connect you with the correct resources. My inbox is always open for these things. I don't get a ton of it, but it does happen once in a while. It's usually people trying to redesign my website, and I'm like, I'm not going to pay you to redesign my Wix website, dude. It's all there. It's links and content. It's all you need. But please don't hesitate to reach out. And if you don't want to reach out to me, reach out to somebody. Reach out to your own doctor. Get recommendations for these things. And just a quick mention, the COVID numbers are currently on the rise. I've have quite a few friends recently that have gotten it. Friends and relatives and whatnot. So please be safe out there. Keep yourself safe. Keep your family safe. And keep your sanity, because we all know how difficult 2020 was, and we don't want to end up getting back there. So just be smart and safe. All right, some positive news. We got word of some new charges coming out of that Georgia grand jury, who decided to indict the Orange Menace along with a bunch of his confidants. We're getting word that there are more charges coming from the Georgia grand jury. One of those includes Lindsey Graham. So it's just a matter of time before we're seeing, possibly seeing a mugshot from him, among others. So follow that closely. And I'm just sitting with the popcorn, going, oh yeah, bet, bring on some more. More. Yep. All right. Let's get Graham in there. Let's get them all of them. And one more piece of positive news: the IRS recently announced that they have a major crackdown. And yes, we always joke, oh, the IRS and how do I pay taxes and blah 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 blah. This is actually specifically a crackdown on multimillionaires who have often kind of skirted around tax laws to not pay their fair share. So it's not often I talk great about the IRS, but good on you, IRS, and let's get some of these rich assholes that are not paying their fair share when they should be. And nothing against the IRS. It's just like, it's more the stress of it. It's like I don't really have a problem with the DMV. I don't like going to the DMV, but I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with the IRS. I don't like filing taxes because it's a pain in my ass, and you got to put. And thanks to the orange one a few years ago, I am by no means wealthy, and I lost out on tax deductions I used to be able to use because of the Orange Menace's tax cuts. That went to all the rich assholes, not the middle class like myself. All right, parenting. So this is, I've been talking to everybody around me, and it's not even just families from my kids' school has been getting this cold. And it's not COVID. I've tested, my wife's tested, and I know people have been testing as they're getting this wicked cough and cold that ended up morphing into an ear infection for me. But I have taken to calling it the back to school cold because it seems like a lot of people are catching it, and the only explanation I have for this spreading right now is the kids went back to school. They're not out in the sunshine as much, out in the fresh air. They're in a classroom, and once even if they're in summer camp, they tend to be outside. Now you're sticking them in a classroom, not as much ventilation, and of course germs are going to travel from kid to kid, and really that's what my whole house got a cold. My kid had it, I got it, my wife's dealing with it now, and literally a bunch of friends that are dealing with it, and it's not. And I won't say that the school is ground zero, because I've seen people that I haven't even been around recently ending up with this like wicked cold. And I've seen them posting on like socials and stuff. So I don't think it's just kids, but I have been jokingly saying it's the back to school cold that we're all catching. And I'm finally coming out on the other end. I just can't hear out of my left ear quite fully. I can hear a little bit, just not fully. And the tinnitus makes it so it's ringing. And like I said at the top of the episode, I had to turn up my volume on my headphones here. And what's going to be funny is I'm going to forget to turn it back down. And then next time I throw my headphones or monitors into my microphone here, I'm probably going to blow out my eardrum, because it probably shouldn't be as loud as it is right now. It's just the only way I can hear out of both ears right now. I thought my headphones, there's something wrong with my headphones, because I put them on to do a sound test here. I always do check levels and everything, and I'm going, God damn it, why can't I hear out of my... I said, oh, because you can't hear out of your left ear anyway right now, dude. So I kicked up the volume on my monitors here, and it's a little bit better. But hopefully I don't bust an eardrum next time I come in here to record. All right, took a Knott's Berry Farm trip with the kiddo. Naturally, we did this on Labor Day because I thrive on crowds. Not really, but my wife works in themed entertainment, and it was the last day of Ghost Town Alive, which is a annual thing down there at Knott's Berry Farm. I'd never been to Ghost Town Alive. I can tell you, if you have the opportunity to take your kids, take your kids. Go by yourself. It was absolutely a blast. My kid had fun. She does the whole shy thing for like 5 minutes, and then you can't get her to shut up. So that's kind of where it went. And it's very well done, very creative. Everyone is a character there, and you end up, they send you on little tasks and stuff, and people are stealing paintings. Like at one point, I'm standing in like the city hall of Ghost Town Alive, and I turn around, and my wife's boss is like running out the door with a bag, but it's clearly like a giant painting, like in a bag, and someone got him to like, oh, help us steal this paint. It's really, really fun. I mean, Knott's Berry Farm is fun to begin with, but the Ghost Town Alive was a lot of fun. I will say, my daughter has finally learned about goths. Yes, those goths. Because apparently, for those of you not familiar with Knott's, it's Ghost Town Alive, and then that ends, and then they shift into Knott's Scary Farm. And they have very hardcore fans who like to show up to the park. And even though it's not Scary Farm time, they like to show up in their goth attire. Now, let me state, no problem with goths. In fact, at one point it was really funny because I'm walking down the street and there's this tiny sliver of shade off to the side, like by one of the buildings. And there's a dude with like eyeliner and a hooded cape and stuff. And I don't know if I recommend checking this out, but I don't know if you've ever, I think it's a whole YouTube channel, but like goths in strange places. And it's like goths go to the beach. It's all for fun. It's hilarious. Like goths go and I'm looking at this. And before I fully realized what was going on, I'm like, oh my God, am I seeing this in real life? Am I seeing goths in strange places in real life? Well, so fast forward a couple hours. And it's Ghost Town Alive. So my kid had a blast, but she was like, are there ghosts? Are there ghosts? And we had to explain, like, no, a ghost town is blah, it's Old West and it's just an abandoned town. It doesn't mean there's ghosts in it. But then, of course, this, and I'm sure it was the same, I'm saying kid, who knows how old, he's younger than me for sure. This goth kid comes walking by with the hood up and kind of making some kind of noises. And my kid thought it was a ghost. And in fact, we had to walk out of one of the buildings because this goth walked in, and then I didn't associate it with the ones I'd seen sitting in the shade earlier. So I'm like, oh, maybe that is like a ghost and part of Ghost Town Alive. And well, fortunately, I know somebody that is higher up in the Ghost Town Alive situation there, and I said, are there like ghosts walking around? And she goes, no. Why? What'd you see? And I was like, well, and she goes, oh yeah, no, that's a bit of a problem. So I had to teach my kid about goths. And I said, you know what, sweets? A goth is probably more afraid of you than you are of them. So just keep that in mind. And then we had, what's a goth? And it's like, oh, yeah, it was just really funny situation, but odd. Like, what are you doing, man? And it's like 98 degrees. I'm, like respect, not my style, man, but respect if you can walk around in a hooded cloak in like 98 degree weather. Me, I've got like a bandana hanging out my pocket. I'm wiping sweat every 5 seconds, just overheating. Good on you, man. All right, Summer Sizzler. Oh, the Bite Me Bammy Summer Sizzler. Oh, I've got some ticket stubs sitting right here. I haven't put them in my ticket stub thing yet. We did that. When was this? Last weekend? Yeah. No. Yeah. Not this like 2 days ago, but the weekend prior. Summer Sizzler down there at Garden Amp, and has become a tradition that the whole family goes. It starts a little earlier. Shout out to my buddy Jason for doing a little barbecue action before the Summer Sizzler, so we got to eat. Went and hung out, had the whole family there, the kiddo. And my kid has turned into quite the ska kid because we were talking, and she hears the music start, and we're like outside the amphitheater area down there in Garden Amp. She goes, come on, we can't miss it. And I'm like, I can't even remember which band this is that's playing, but okay, let's go in there and watch. And she sat in the seats for a good part of it, but she wanted to be up in it the whole time. She didn't want to miss any of it. And then at one point, Bite Me Bambi comes on, and they're closing it out. So I'm at the rail with my kid, holding her, dancing. She's dancing, I'm dancing. We're having a good time. And at one point I'm like, okay, now my back's getting sore, and so I see my wife, and I'm like, oh, here, kind of point the kiddo back toward the wife, and I was like, okay, we can go. We're gonna leave before Bite Me Bambi finishes, and my kid was like, no, we have to stay to the end. So my wife and I kind of shrug at each other, like, well, all right, I'm not gonna pull her away from this. So I come out of the pit to kind of go check on him, and my kid literally grabs my hand and starts pulling me toward the rail and the pit. So I'm like, okay, cool. We'll go stand at the edge of the circle pit. That was not enough for her. She then proceeded to pull me into the circle pit. So here I am with this very small child. And of course, I'm not holding her. I'm like shielding her. And fortunately, it's a ska show. We're not talking about a hardcore show. So no one's throwing elbows or anything. But she literally pulls me into the pit, and we're going around the circle pit for a good amount of time. And out of the corner of my eye, I see my wife just kind of like dumbfounded, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know. This is what she wanted to do. And so after a while, I'm finally like, okay, we got to get out of this circle here. We're gonna go toward the edge and watch the rest of it. But wow, my kid has turned a leaf as far as her ska fandom. I can tell you that right now. And then I got a serious situation, and I'm sure some parents out there can relate, especially if your kids are of a certain age. So obviously, since our last episode, it was September 11th, which occurred on a Monday this year. So she was in school for September 11th, and then, in fact, it popped up in sports news because I didn't even put this in my notes, but DraftKings were trying to capitalize on September 11th, and they had this like new. If you know what a parlay, I'm not gonna get into explaining it, but they had this New York parlay with like the Yankees and the Giants and the Jets or whatever it was, something like that. I think the Jets, they were playing on a Monday, and so of course it's in the news. Well, my kid, has been alive for the anniversary for a few years, but never paid attention, never really heard about it, and sure enough, she comes walking into this studio on that Monday and asks both my wife and I about planes flying into buildings. And I went, it's one of those things, man. And she has lost a grandparent. She was very young when she lost a great-grandparent, but she was old enough when she lost a grandparent who passed away. That was a tough conversation. This was another one of those like, holy crap. You don't think about it, but then kids talk at school. Maybe they were, mentioned it or something, and then they're at an age where you have to explain what happened. I think my wife and I did a pretty good job. My wife specifically, I did not as great of a job because it took me a couple minutes. I was like, oh, in my head, I'm like, oh shit. Well, how do we tackle this one? And still make kids feel safe. So, yeah, that's it for parenting. I feel for all you parents out there that have had to do that prior to this year, because it's been 22 years, so it's a lot of, all of us were alive for it, and you don't think about having to explain it to a kid. You don't think about it being in a history book because I was out of school. It's history now, but I lived through it happening. I was in California, not in New York, but you get what I mean. All right, let's talk some common sense, then some entertainment news, then we're going to wrap it up while my hearing is still holding up. USPS, United States Postal Service, versus the UPS store. So I I picked up a record at Less Than Jake for a friend who lives out of town that I actually know through the Bite Me Bambi Discord. And they asked me to pick it up, and he said, yeah, I'll pay the shipping, whatever. And I said, oh, no problem. I don't mail a lot of things. Like, maybe I'm mailing a letter or a card, like a birthday card, but I'm not mailing a lot of packages. My wife does the Poshmark thing, but with that, because I've dropped off a package for her, I think you just slap a label on a bag or a box, and it's a record, and it's a limited edition Hello Rockview record, repress with all kinds of cool stuff in it. And so I was like, I don't want this thing getting damaged. And you see these commercials for the UPS store where they're like, just bring it in, we'll pack it and ship it and everything. So I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm going to go to the UPS store. There's one not far from me. So I go there, and I'm like, I got this record. I just walked in with just a record. I'm like, can you box it up for me? Can you package it? And they're giving me, shipping prices. And I'm like, okay, and it's adding up. And I'm like, it ends up being like $40. And I'm going, okay, well, apparently that must be like the going rate. And then they were like, well, we're going to charge you for the fragile packing. So they wanted to put more money on top of this, like $40. And I think the $40 did include like a $5 box. So I ended up buying this box. So I go, okay. And I said, okay, what? And she goes, well, you can pack it yourself. And I'm like, okay, this is a record. I really came here because I thought that was your whole shtick, which I guess it is, but you're paying a premium for it. And she's like, well, there's some bubble wrap there if you want. And I'm like, how much is a bubble wrap? $15. And I go, there's a Target down the street. And I'm like, you know what? And she goes, okay, I can print you the label and you can pack it yourself. And I'm like, fine, print the stupid label. I go to Target to pick up some bubble wrap, and I go home, and I'm just like, I'm trying to get some more. This is like at lunchtime. I had a bunch of work to do that day. I come home and I go to my wife. I'm like, it's $40. And she's like, no, that's crazy. And I picked up some bubble wrap for like $3 at Target, compared to 15. It's $5 box. And she goes, just go to the post office. So I already got this label printed. So I do a quick Googling, and it's like, okay, cool. I can return the label. I had to go back to the stupid store. I called him, and I'm like, can you just refund this? And like, I got to bring it in. And my wife looks at me. She's like, you look a little upset. Probably not the best day to go back to the UPS store. Just save it for tomorrow. So I'm like, okay. And she's looking, pulls up post office stuff. She's like, yeah, look at the shipping here. And it's like, okay. So I've got the box in the bubble wrap. So I box it up. And the next day I go to the post office. I'm like, well, how much would it be to ship this? And he pulls something up, and he's like, oh, like priority mail or whatever, like $12. And he's like, what is it? I was like, oh, it's a vinyl record. And he goes, oh, we have media mail. And it was like $5.79. It was just under $6, $5.79. And I sent this thing on a Saturday, and they were like, well, it'll take about a week to get there. And I'm like, that doesn't matter. I just want to make sure it gets there and it's secure. I wrapped like a bunch of bubble wrap, and I'm like, I don't want this record damaged and everything else. $5.79. I get a message from my friend like 2 days later. He goes, oh, the record arrived. And I was like, what? You got to be kidding me. So I was going to spend like $40 to $60 at the UPS store. So bottom line is, use media mail, for God's sake, if you're sending records, and do not go to the UPS store. I'm sure UPS is fine for certain things. All the stickers that we get for Go Tell It to the Wall, they go on Sticker Mule, and it comes through UPS. I know our UPS delivery person, like I couldn't tell you his name, but like if he drives by and even not delivering, he gets a wave. You know, it's like, hey, they're great, but good Lord, what's going on at the UPS store? $40 to $60 to send a record. Unbelievable. All right, we had some climate activists, not like the ones at Burning Man where the tribal sheriffs or whatever just ran them over, but they were at the U.S. Open. Not a big tennis watcher, but of course it was like breaking news, and they had a delay to the start of the U.S. Open, or the day of, I think that particular day, and the delay in starting the competition at U.S. Open because of activists. And here's the thing. I fully support protesting. Be smart about it, because apparently there was a guy who decided to glue his feet to the ground in order to protest climate stuff at the U.S. Open. Which, again, it's kind of like Burning Man was climate activists. Like, yo, they use their own, like, there's no reusable stuff out there. Everyone's using their own cups and everything. And I mean, I'm sure they had good reason, but, like, go protest at a golf course or something else, like, where we're using a ton of land. I don't see, anyway. Like I said, protest all you want. It's not worth, like, having your feet just destroyed because you decided to glue them to the ground. I mean, come on, use a little common sense here. It is a rash decision, I gotta say, you know. All right, so one chip challenge I think it's called like the Pocky or something like that. I've seen these. I've seen people post like, oh, about to do the one chip challenge, an extremely spicy chip. I don't know if it's a potato chip or a tortilla chip, whatever kind of chip it is. That's not my thing to do. They have actually taken it off the market, at least temporarily, because unfortunately a teenager passed away from doing the one chip challenge. This was actually kind of crazy because I saw the news come across and I went, holy shit. They did the one chip challenge and it was enough to make them pass away. No, they in fact did the 16 chip challenge. 16. And of course then people flooded with, well, we know the 15 is the limit. Nonetheless, 16 of these chips. And so the company had to take them off the market. I think they rushed to that decision. I understand why they had to do this, but it is literally called the one chip challenge. It doesn't say you should eat 16 of them. In fact, I guarantee on the packaging, there's probably some kind of warning about not eating more than one. And for those of you not aware, there's lots of stuff on the market that can kill you by overeating. Do you know that you can die from drinking too much water? You can die from drinking too much milk? These are real things. So I understand why they did it, but like seriously? I'm pretty sure you might die from eating 16 ghost peppers too, but they didn't take ghost peppers off the market. Common sense says if it's a one chip challenge, eat one fucking chip and move on. Don't, kids these days got to one up each other. I wonder if he had a friend, and I don't mean to speak ill of the dead. For God's sake, the poor kid lost his life. But I wonder if he had a friend that made it to 15. He's like, oh yeah? Well, I don't know, 16. And whoop, Not the best decision, kid. All right, United Auto Workers. They went on strike over the past week, maybe a week ago at the most. And for those of you not aware, these are the auto worker unions out of Detroit that handle. I'm not sure of the third one, but I know it's going to be like Ford and Chevy, and then whatever third car manufacturer is mainly based out of Detroit. They have gone on strike. I haven't looked at specifics of the reasoning, but for those of you that have listened at all to this podcast, you know that we are staunch union supporters. We stand with the unions. Unions literally make the world run. So we will be standing with them. A couple things to point out. Good old Muskie over there, who's clearly not pro-union, actually took away their blue check mark on Twitter once they announced the strike. So clearly he is not backing a union. And I will say on a personal note, while I fully support the any union going on strike, literally like 2 days before the strike happened, my wife and I were fine. We've been a one-car family since like December. We got rid of our second car because we weren't really using it. Like, we didn't really use it much during COVID, and we needed a new one. And it was like, let's just have one car, for a few months. And finally, we were like, all right, let's time to pick out the second car. And then like 2 days later, and I just went, of course. And it didn't make me pull support for them, but I was like, man, probably should have bought the new car like a month ago, and then wouldn't have to worry about this. So we're standing strong with the United Auto Workers Union out there in Detroit. Some news from Starbucks and their iconic. I love how all the articles about this. Their iconic cup, which is, people do get frustrated about it, like they get real mad about the holiday cup and stuff. And it is to an extent, it's iconic. It was in a scene of Game of Thrones. For those of you who remember that happening, where somebody left a Starbucks cup out. You see them all over the place. They have actually come out and said that they want to do away with single-use Starbucks cups by the year 2030, 2030. And this is a piece of information I did not know, because I don't go to Starbucks a lot. Once in a while, if I'm out and about and I need some coffee, I'll pick up some Starbucks. My wife enjoys Starbucks. I have friends that, but for me, I'm like, you got coffee at home? Has 7-Eleven? It's fine. Just give me that coffee. This was something I wasn't aware of. But apparently, if you bring your own mug or cup into Starbucks, you get $1 off your coffee. So I don't understand why everyone wouldn't just do this. And apparently, they have like a quick dishwashing thing that they put it in. They wash it for you and then fill it, and you get $1 off. So I'll be curious to see. Of course, Kid Rock's probably going to shoot up a bunch of Starbucks cups with a ridiculously large gun or something and complain that we're not killing the earth fast enough, so let's not get rid of single-use cups. But common sense says and it's funny, I haven't even mentioned this to my wife. I'm telling her, if she's going to Starbucks, next time she does, bring a cup, $1 off the drink, call it a day. Like, they're incentivizing you to bring in a cup. I'm not a big Starbucks fan in general, especially their corporate side. But why would you pass up on $1 off? That's just like leaving money on the table. All right, Russell Brand. Yeah, that Russell Brand. I did see and nothing about this is funny, but there was a funny Onion article that was like, people shocked that Russell Brand wasn't already a sexual predator or convicted sexual predator. He's had 4 women come out and accuse him of rape. And so far, they seem very credible allegations. There was also 4 different women. It's like when we talked about Deshaun Watson, like not 1, not 2, 27. Like, okay. And if you've heard unhinged Russell Brand lately, it's not shocking that he is a toxic person. And then, of course, assholes came to his defense. You should see Twitter. One of those was Musk, and it's like I think one was like Jordan Peterson, and I saw someone else say, like, now this just makes him seem absolutely guilty if these are the people that are supporting him and calling out and and on top of that, apparently he had a tour going on. I guess a stand-up. He's not very funny in general. I've never found him to be too funny. But the promoters are canceling the final end of his tour because of all these allegations, and hopefully we will see some justice on this one, because it sounds like they are very credible accusations. And I don't like to judge a book by its cover. I don't know the guy personally, but look at the guy, listen to the guy. Are we shocked? Not me. Drew Barrymore, who apparently has a talk show. I didn't even know this talk show existed, but apparently she has a talk show She found herself in hot water recently because she was going to keep the show going despite the Writers Guild and Actors Guild strikes that are happening right now. Shows can't happen. Commercials can still happen, but shows. And you have writers on those shows. And in fact, all of the other talk show, like late night talk show hosts, they are not hosting their shows. In fact, they're working, raising money. I saw Stephen Colbert is doing stand-up right now at comedy clubs and giving all the money to his writers and people that work on his show because they can't work right now. So she rightfully was in some hot water and then doubled down on it and said she was still going to continue with her show. There was some tearful apology video that I didn't watch because I really don't care. Like I said, I didn't know she had a damn talk show. But she finally backed off of it eventually and is not proceeding with moving forward with her talk show. Oh, Bobo. Oh, that Bobo out there in Colorado. You know who I'm talking about, Lauren Bobo. She was in some hot water recently. And this is why, remember we talked at the top of the podcast during Digital Trends, especially don't believe politicians. So word came out that she was being loud and obnoxious in a theater, a performance of Beetlejuice, which I believe is a musical. It's a Broadway play, but now it's traveling around. She was there somewhere in Colorado, whatever hole she crawls out of, near there, I'm sure, and was being loud and obnoxious and vaping in a theater and had to be escorted out by security. She then came out and denied that she was vaping and that she was being obnoxious. Well, Bobo, unfortunately for you and many other people, there's fucking cameras everywhere now. There's a security camera from inside the theater where you could see her being obnoxious and loud and vaping. And on top of that, there is a pregnant woman sitting right behind her who kindly asked her to stop vaping because you shouldn't be doing that inside. You shouldn't be doing it at all, let alone inside, let alone right next to a pregnant person. Let's use some common sense here. So, of course, she had to back down on her denials of these allegations. But then it got even worse with the security footage because we found that her and her date, whoever this guy was, she was there with a guy and was clearly on a date of some kind, were getting very, very handsy with each other. This is a kid-friendly performance of Beetlejuice. Kids were in the audience. And I don't want to say I would encourage you to watch the video, but I don't want to get into graphic details here. There was a lot of fondling going on both of their parts. And we are talking about Bobo, who comes out and speaks staunchly against drag queens and the LGBTQ community because she says they are grooming children. And their behavior is inappropriate. I don't know if you've ever been to a drag show. Usually nobody's getting jerked. I mean, maybe there are some drag shows, but a family-friendly drag show, nobody's getting jerked off in the audience. It's just not happening. So it's one thing. First of all, politician here. So that's not something you should be doing in public. Period. You're making out a little. That's fine. But this was groping with kids around. But what makes it all the worse is that she comes out as this moral high ground all the time. By the way, she's 36 and she's a grandmother. So clearly, you can speak out all you want against birth control, but maybe you need some of that going through your family right now. But it's the hypocrisy. We see so much of this from one side of the aisle. And here's just another example of that. Completely inappropriate behavior. It still boggles my mind that people in Colorado voted for her and want her as a politician in their state. Mind-blowing. All right, and we had a man in Lancaster about less than a week ago. And this guy I'm going to laugh at. These always crack me up. He decided to light off a firework, but not only light off a firework, he decided he was going to light off a firework off his head. Apparently, he was wearing a helmet, like a motorcycle helmet or something. But instead of the firework shooting off his head and into the air, it just exploded on his head. And he needed medical treatment and whatnot. I believe he did survive, but needed medical treatment. Not a fun situation, obviously. But can we knock it off with the goddamn fireworks? I talk about this every fucking year around the 4th of July. Knock it off with the fireworks. And you're like, oh, big thing go boom. That's all I think of I think of a fucking caveman. No offense to any of our cave person listeners. But that's the mentality that goes into that. Oh, loud boom. Like, shut the fuck up. Just be done with the fireworks. People get hurt. You start fires. There's no need for it. Go watch a drone show. Or you know what? If you really need to see the loud booms, go to a professional show. Don't light them off your fucking head. Good Lord. Probably trying to act out some jackass skit or something. I'll tell you. All right, we got a couple entertainment things, and we're going to wrap it up for episode 114. We Are the Union. Had the privilege of seeing them a couple weeks ago at the Knitting Factory there in North Hollywood. Actually dragged my wife out to this one because she had been wanting to see We Are the Union live, as well as she's a big fan of Half Past Two, who were also playing that night. So dragged her out there. Half Past Two kicked it off, absolutely killed it. It was an extra fun night, and it's funny because for those of you not aware, Half Past Two has a song, Three Small Words, which I believe is from Josie and the Pussycats. It's like it's an iconic song that people know, and I know it now, but I was not aware of it before that. And it's a two-part song. So on the original recording, it is Tara from Half Past Two and Talina from Bite Me Bambi. I have seen Talina jump up on stage and perform it with Half Past Two. I've also seen Reed from We Are the Union jump up on stage and perform it with Half Past Two. So I'm standing there, next to my buddy John, and I'm like, I wonder if Reed's gonna pop up there. She's got to play her own set, but maybe she'll pop up there for the song. And I didn't see Reed anywhere around. But Britt from Catbite was actually filling in for Bad Operation, who also killed it that night. And she was off to the side, and then Three Small Words starts, and she's watching. And I see as it starts getting to the part for the second vocalist, she makes her way toward the stage. And I turned to John. I think I grabbed him. I was like, oh my God, Britt is going to do it. Britt's going to do it. Britt's going to do it. And then 2 seconds later, she's up on stage singing. And we're just like, oh my God. Now we're just collecting singers that are hopping up there with Tara to sing Three Small Words. And then it was also great because, like I said, Britt filled in with Bad Operation. And then so Tim came out on stage, grabbed a guitar, and they actually played a Catbite song. So my wife, who is a big Catbite fan, has never seen Catbite, actually got to see a Catbite song live with Bad Operation. And then We Are the Union, they always put on a fantastic show. One song, a cover they played that I'd never heard them play before was the What We Do in the Shadows song. And it's funny, so I'm standing near my buddy John and my wife kind of elbows me, and I'm like, what is it? And then she looks over at John, and they both heard it before I did, and they're like looking at me, and I'm like, what? And then I listen, I'm like, oh, it's the What We Do in the Shadows song. Pretty cool. And then of course they decided to come out for an encore and do a Sound System, which they do a fantastic rendition of. All right, couple quick things. New Streets album, Mike Skinner. We got a new Streets album coming out soon. There is a single that is currently on YouTube. I don't have that release date right in front of me or the single name, the name of the song title for that newest single, but you can check it out on YouTube, probably on the other streaming platforms. But of course, I will be buying a digital download of that as soon as it comes out because I'm obsessed with the Streets. New Blink album is coming out October 20th. We knew one was coming soon. They officially announced today that it's coming out October 20th, and they have a new single coming out this week. It's going to premiere this week, so if you are a Blink-182 fan, keep your ears peeled for that new music coming out, as well as the new album in October. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with is September 18th, so you still have a while. That would be the September design for the Bassists Against Racist t-shirts. For September, they have Ben McKee from Imagine Dragons. That's right, Ben McKee from Imagine Dragons is your September Bassists Against Racist artist. Of course, artwork done by the uber-talented Paul Smith of Zombie Teeth Clothing. And if you're going to order one of those shirts, you got to do it before the end of September. And if you're in North America, you're going to order from Chaos Merch, K-A-O-S. And if you're in Europe, you're going to order from T-Mom Merch, T-M-O-M Merch. And it is a pre-order, so make sure you get those orders in before the end of the month. And then they get printed the following month and sent your way. So pick up your newest Bassists Against Racist t-shirt design. All right. That is it for entertainment news, and we are going to wrap this up. Before we go, don't forget to follow us on the socials, facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall, youtube.com/GoTellItToTheWall, or at GoTellItToTheWall. Of course, my own personal Instagram account, at SoCalSean, SoCalSean, at SoCalSean. And make sure you bookmark SeanO'RourkeLive.com, your one-stop shop for anything and everything pertaining to Common Sense Sundays and Go Tell It to the Wall. You're also going to find a link to our Patreon campaign as well as our merch website if you want to support us financially. Those are two great ways to do it. All right. I know I said this last episode, but I'm on the mend now, and I told you we've got a new studio setup, so we should be back next week, same wall place, same wall time, but I will keep everyone updated on the socials. I just need this ear infection to completely clear up, which it is getting close to completely clear. Apologies for the quality of my voice, which honestly isn't that great to begin with, but a little worse for wear right now due to that cold and ear infection. But we're going to do our best to be back at our usual time and place. Anyway, this has been episode 114 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell Us the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. And until next time, Wall fans, Common Sensors, podcast consumers, remember, no matter what you do, no matter who you with, no matter where you go, and especially no matter why you are doing it, always use common sense.